Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Today what we're going to do is on this research with me, we are going to go through my current research and get caught up just a little bit on what I have already researched and what my focus needs to be moving forward. So we are looking at the Discover Your Ancestry Genealogy Research Workbook, which is the workbook that I use to document all of my research. I did create this workbook. This is me on the back. It is available via Amazon. It will be linked down below. So, I am currently researching my maternal grandfather's line. So my ancestor line, last name of Walker. I just wrote this in here. This workbook comes with enough space to do 3 ancestor lines, and it has extensive charts and documentation in here, and some tips on the research. But that's not what we're going to focus on today. Today, because I have done a complete flip through of this book, and it is on my channel. You can check that out if you're interested. But today we're going to look at the existing research I've done, get caught up on where we are, and talk about what I need to continue doing in my next research with me videos. So Jim Walker is my maternal grandfather, and his second wife is or was my grandmother, who has passed. Well, both Jim and Ethel have passed. So I started by completing a family group sheet for Jim and Ethel, which basically lists your the husband and the wife, and then their family unit, so all of their children. And keep in mind that I am following Jim Walker's line. I have already thoroughly researched Ethel's line, so she will be in this book, but she won't be the main research ancestor that I'm researching, so you won't see me completely fill out all of her information like I will with Jim's. So following Jim Walker's line, I started with the family group sheet. He was married before, so I listed his first wife in the notes section. And then the next part of researching is to take that family unit from the family group sheet and list them on the census tracker. And the point of using the census tracker is to track each person in the family unit through the census records and notate their locations for each census year. So the way you use this census tracker is that you list each person in the family unit at the top, on the top row. So you see we had the family group sheet, Jim, Ethel, his first wife, Annie, and then all of the children. Those people are listed at the top on the census tracker. And then I go through the census years, 1950, 1940, 1930, all the way down. And I try to find each person in the census that they should be in. So for example, Jim Walker was born in the mid 1890s. So he would not be in the 1880 census. The first census for him would be 1900. And I list their location. This helps me keep track of the migrations of my ancestors and this particular family unit, and it is very helpful when you're doing additional research. There is space down here at the bottom to add additional notes. Because I am tracking Jim Walker's line, I'm basically building his family tree. I am going back directly on Jim Walker. I will come back in and do this same activity for all the children in the family, but that's not as essential to me right now as it is to find Jim Walker and his parents and so forth and so forth. So I've completed the census tracker for Jim Walker, and I do have a video showing me doing that. And then the next section is the family group sheet for Jim Walker's parents. So Burl Walker, Molly Sanders were his parents. And I'm going to do a family group sheet for all of their children. And that includes Jim Walker, who is my grandfather. So I just want to pause and repeat how this is working. I started with the family group sheet of my grandfather, right? Tracked his family. And then I'm going to do a family group sheet of my grandfather's father and mother, track that family, which is what I'm doing, tracking that family through the census records. This is pretty much where I left off, okay? But I'm going to show you what I need to do next. So using the census trackers, I am tracking them all the way through, just like I did with Jim Walker, and I'm putting any notes here. And I go all the way back until I get to the period around their birth year. Unfortunately, with African American ancestry, most of us hit what we call the brick wall after the 1870 census because slavery was not over until mid 1860s. And if your ancestors were slaves, which is the case most of the time for African American ancestry, not all of the time, but most of the time, then you're probably going to hit a brick wall. Now, there are techniques you can use to get past the brick wall, and I will come back and do that once I finish building out the family units at least to 1870. Then we'll come back and start doing some pre-1870 research. But he's hit the brick wall, so I have found everything I need to find right now for my grandfather's father. Now I'm going to continue, and I'm going to look at my grandfather's mother's father, right? So I'm just going back. Molly Sanders technically would be my great grandmother. So now I'm going to look up information about her family unit with her father and her mother. And then Burrow Walker, I'm going to continue going back in the tree. And I'm going to look up information about his father, which is I guess at this point, my great-great-grandfather and my great-great-grandmother. So that is how you use your family group sheets to start building your family tree. Okay? And as I build out that family unit, I will track them through the census tracker. So next steps for me, I just wanted to kind of catch you up with where I was. The next steps for me is to finish filling out my great-grandfather's census information, and then I'm going to build his family unit. Here, right? So my great-grandfather will be listed as a son, and then I will track that family through the census tracker. And I'm going to do the same thing for the female side, right? So my great-grandmother, and then go back to my great-great-grandmother, and so forth and so forth. Once I am done with that, any ancestors that I want to dig a little bit deeper into, I will do an ancestor detail sheet, and I'll look up specific records about that ancestor. A lot of the times I use this for the ancestor that is living in 1870 so that I can try and find them in 1860, whether they were a slave or something like that, or not a slave, who knows? But I have to look at different types of records at that point. So this ancestor detail sheet helps me keep track of those types of records. And I have several of those in each family line. And then I also have these pre-Civil War sheets so that if I'm trying to find families pre-Civil War, I can keep track of that. A lot of times, if my ancestor was a slave, then a lot of times the information on these sheets are actually related to the family who may have owned that person, because unfortunately, that's the only way that we can really get information about those people. Is looking through records of other people's families. And so having a page to document that is really important. And also, if your ancestor was not a slave, you still hopefully will have some pre-Civil War. Well, you will have pre-Civil War ancestors if you can find them, whether they were slaves or not. So having a page to document that information is important. And then once I've documented the basic information, I will start filling in the family tree, which of course is going to start, I'll probably start this with my mother, and have my mother here because this is her line, her father's line. So I'd probably go with my mother, her father, her mother, and then my grandfather's line will build out here. that is how that is going to work. And that's what I have left. And then since I am researching the Walker line, I have additional ancestor lines here in case I want to continue the Walker line or I want to start another ancestor line. Maybe let's say I find information about my great great grandmother and I want to dive deeper into her complete ancestor line. I might do an ancestor line for her surname, just like I did for my grandfather's surname. So that just depends on how you use it. But I just wanted to take a moment and just talk to you a little bit about my research, where I am, where I left off. I do research offline, but I film some of it and I post it on this channel as research with me's by episodes. I think we're only on episode 3 or 4. But yeah, keep an eye out for those episodes. They will be posting. If you are interested in getting a copy of this book, you can order it from Amazon. It is printed by Amazon, so the paper is thin, but it's actually perfect for workbook paper. You can see that I am writing on it just fine. It does have some ghosting through it, but no bleed through, so it doesn't impact you writing front and back. It's very lightweight, which means that this is a lightweight book, which is great because this book actually is almost 200 pages, believe it or not. It's a pretty in-depth workbook. So if you're interested, it'll be linked down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good day.